Should have known he had something else up his sleeve. The door could give way at any moment. All I can do is pray that Father Nick arrives soon. The stained glass windows of the church show distorted images of Gehenna. A profane choir of agonized voices fill my ears as hundreds of shadows surround the chapel. He's coming. I don't have much time left. This might be the last time you hear from me, so pay attention. You need to know this. You need to know the last card that treacherous serpent has up his sleeve. It's finally time to recount my escape from hell. My hands tremble as I type. The priest's laptop is old and a bit slow, but I must be grateful to at least have a way to record my final thoughts. At the moment, I'm cornered beneath the podium of the Chapel of the Saint of Lost Causes, a forgotten structure far from the city, but in recent days it has become one of the few places where I could find some peace of mind. After the encounter with the angel, many questions arose in my mind. Coupled with the increase in shadows surrounding and watching me, and the nightmares disrupting my rest, I felt it was time to seek some kind of help. My relationship with churches has been complicated since I returned from the dead. When I decided that I would do everything possible to avoid going back to Gehenna, the first thing I did was head to the nearest Catholic church. However, as I knelt before the steps of the entrance, I felt an unusual chill down my spine. At the entrance of the church stood a statue of an angel above the door. I could recognize the imperfections and marks that only humans' hands can reproduce, but something in its gray eyes alerted me. I felt as though I was once again under the cold and judging gaze of Minos. With each step I took, the discomfort grew, as if I knew I no longer belonged in that place, that there was no room in the light for me. Before I could reach the door, I turned around and ran away, only stopping when I was out of sight of that damn statue. Since then, every attempt has had the same effect, which confuses me. Forces beyond my comprehension have strangely pushed me towards these sacred grounds, like in the taxi incident. It's as if two parents were fighting, each trying to influence a neglectful child. I felt tossed around, caught in the crossfire of being so ancient and with such mysterious intentions. An ant in a field of giants. And I would have continued in this tug-of-war if it weren't for Nick, Father Nicholas. Our meeting was a twist of fate. I was stuck in the hospital's medical wing, trying to rationalize the events that had left me bedridden, and he entered my room by mistake, thinking I was one of the soon-to-be-dead patients awaiting my final prayer. Took a while to convince him otherwise. That simple mistake probably saved my life. Even not being the one he was searching for, Father Nick felt something in me. He insisted on praying for my soul nonetheless. As I closed my eyes, a foul stench filled the room. It got cold. I could hear a high-pitched buzzing swirling around the room, like a swarm of angry wasps searching for a victim. When I opened my eyes, I saw the shadows stretching across the walls, forming the faces of horrendous beings with insect wings and twisted horns, with thin tails covered in spikes, and bifurcated claws that tore at the wallpaper as they moved. The shadows danced in an unholy festival, mocking me, reveling in my suffering. Even though the horror consuming my mind was overwhelming, my skin pale as snow and my heart pounding, begging me to flee, the scream of terror that echoed through the ward didn't come from me. For the first time, I wasn't the only one seeing demons. Father Nick clutched his cross so tightly I swore his fingers would fall off from lack of blood. I recognized pure fear in his eyes, but even in the face of the irrational, that man didn't abandon me. With one hand on my shoulder, he told me to cover my eyes and pray. Even when the laughter grew louder, when the equipment toppled over and the lights flickered, we didn't stop praying. Who knows how long we stood there, pleading for the benevolence of a higher being. When everything finally calmed and we dared to open our eyes, the room was completely destroyed. Nick managed to get me out of there before the nurses arrived. In the days that followed, he helped me a lot. I didn't tell him everything, but he had seen firsthand that the abyss had its eyes on me, and as a man of God, he couldn't allow himself to ignore that. It was weird. Throughout my journey through the 9 circles, it was hammered into my mind that I would always be alone. that if I didn't betray the sinners first, they would betray me. Even when I ignored all the warnings and dared to extend a hand, I lost those who accompanied me. I don't deserve to be back. I don't deserve any help. But Nicholas was persistent, and his words, practically torn from the Bible, were spoken with such conviction that, even knowing the light had long abandoned me, I couldn't help but feel slightly touched by them. Even when I pushed him away, he always returned, asking me to visit his church. "The doors are always open to those in need," he repeated. Hearing now the sound of wood creaking, the storm worsening, I can only hope that tonight they remain firmly shut. The time of my second trial is approaching, and I have the feeling that this time I won't be able to escape my sentence. So pay attention, because when death finally catches up to you, you find yourselves thrown into the tar pits and torture that form hell, you'll want to know how to escape this cruel fate, but be warned, it won't be easy. If I close my eyes and take a deep breath, I can still remember. I can still feel the foul air of heresy accumulating in my lungs, the constant miasma piling up on my back like snow, hot as embers, the muddy ground that clings to you, and the terrible sight of the abyssal wardens. As I walked through the sixth circle, my emotions erupted within me. I felt dirty, rotten. I just followed the old man without saying anything, occasionally looking at the delta on my hand. John's furious gaze still weighed on my memories, and the vision of Yudi's splattered brain surfaced every time I closed my eyes. I didn't even know why I was so determined to escape anymore. It was only fair that I suffer in that eternal cycle of agony. The swampy ground gave way to cracked and tortuous terrain, the spire becoming just a small strip on the horizon. Around us, a new scene unfolded. The sixth circle is primarily composed of obsidian towers reaching up to the sky, with thick, twisted branches complementing them like lights on a Christmas tree. These towers house caves at their lower points, where sinners are held captive by hideous creatures, the true wardens of the abyss. The old man motioned for me to crouch, his expression revealing the level of danger we were in. My curiosity fought against my guilt, and winning compelled me to peek. Knowing what inhabited that circle only made my anxiety worse. The wardens' bodies resembled that of a centaur, with a lower part like a horse, irregular hooves, and defined muscles. Their tails are like living fire, spreading flames wherever they go, glowing with energy when they hunt, torture, and devour their prey. From the torso up, they resemble a locust, with 4 double-jointed arms covered in bristles, ending in a single claw that twists like a scythe. Their black eyes sense fear, and if you stare at them for too long, you enter a state of paralysis. The exhilaration of this moment is such that the entire horde of wardens gathers for the feast, and you will remain conscious throughout the entire process. You'll feel their jaws open your abdomen, their limbs tear you apart, their faces chew yours. You'll only return to the tar pits when there's nothing left that can be defined as you. In summary, stay away from the dark prisons. Unfortunately for us, our fate loomed just beyond the prisons. Listen here. We need to mask our scent. These specific demons have an incredibly keen sense of smell. After that, we'll cross the valley. What? Did you see the size of those things? Can't we go around? The old man turned to face me. Look around. This field seems to stretch to the horizon. We're not in a fixed location. These prisons form and move at their master's will. The perfect tool for the perfect job. It's like a compressed bubble of murderous intent. There's no going around. You suck it up and face it head on.
Or do you prefer to wait until that maniac catches up with us?
Jack? Stop talking nonsense. He's in limbo. By the time he's halfway here, we'll be long gone.
Damn it, kid. Jack isn't a novice like you. He's been here for centuries. He knows paths and highways that many have never heard of. And you forget who he is, who he believes himself to be. Or do you not remember what we did? We spat in the face of the damn self-proclaimed Emperor of the Abyss, whose ego and greed are so immense that he even managed to control a demon prince. Do you really think he would give up so easily? I wouldn't be surprised if he's already setting foot in heresy while we speak.
My last sight before being swallowed by the spire reshaped in my mind. Jack's enraged face, his ring glowing intensely red, Astaroth's shadow looming over the caravan. Damn it! Show the way. The old man crawled to a small mound of miasma, grabbed a handful, and began smearing himself with it. The smell was strong. I could see his face contorting with pain. With little choice, I did the same, my face bubbling with pain, struggling not to scream, tears streaming so heavily I could barely keep my eyes open. Armed only with a handful of hope and hearts full of dread, we began to sneak past the black towers. With every scream I heard, I tightly closed my eyes, believing we would be next. The screams and cries punctuated by the stampede of hooves, the pleas for help from sinners trapped like birds in cages, so close that I could sometimes perfectly distinguish their faces and catch a glimpse of the sadistic tortures they endured. Occasionally, the wardens would release some sinners, letting them run far, letting them dream of a semblance of freedom, only to cruelly hunt them down later, like a mischievous ritual where the only reward was capture and sometimes death. In one such instance, a lady fell near the rocks where we hid. One of the wardens cut her knees and watched as she crawled futilely, begging for mercy. I couldn't bear to watch it to the end. My stomach churned with disgust. The cruelty was such that many bit their tongues in a futile attempt to escape the demon's clutches. But something in that valley held them. Their bodies fell limp in their cells, only to rise minutes later. After hours of hiding behind the rocks, holding our breath as packs passed by, and suppressing cries of pure fear and despair when the demons approached, we could finally see the end of the black towers. My left hand started itching. The mark now glowed red. Confused, I looked at the old man for answers, but he angrily ignored me. Stop this shit! I've said 100 times I never wanted anything to do with this. I just want answers. You said you would tell me more as we traveled, right? Spit it out. I felt the tension release from my shoulders as we stepped back onto the cold, muddy ground. In the distance, a cluster of immense rocks stretched out lonely atop a hill. For some reason, I felt afraid.
The mark is reacting to its presence. Samael is cunning and incredibly smart. Even imprisoned in the depths, he still holds ways and means to know what goes on in his realm. Gehenna is just a small part of the whole that makes up his soul. His essence, his body extends beyond what we can see, even in this cursed dimension. At this point, the mark's glow intensified, and the back of my hand started to burn. It's as much a part of him as he is of it. No matter how hard you fight, it's impossible to escape yourself. What the fuck? My hand! The old man began pulling me towards the rocks, which started trembling as if they were alive, waiting for me all this time. That's why he needs a new body, one that isn't eternally sealed to this plane. For centuries he sought the perfect vessel, the creature worthy to bear his new and perfect form. The true Messiah, the one and only God of this world. And he found her. After much searching, he found her. Above the stars, the ritual was performed. The womb cursed with the presence of his only son. What the fuck are you implying? This is madness. This is... The wait is over. Your mission is unique and imperative. Your body was meticulously crafted for this moment. All of us, humble servants of the Morning Star, dreamed of this moment where we would willingly surrender our bodies so that his eternal kingdom could begin. It pains me to give up this beautiful dream, but I tremble with happiness knowing that in any case, he will be free. Come closer, Nathaniel. Your father and Lord awaits you.
I'm sorry, but I had to admit this fact. Until now, I can barely believe it. I don't want to believe it. Everything I went through, everything I suffered, no matter how I had lived my life, even if Holly were still alive, even if none of that had happened, my fate was set in stone. Made from stardust and the devil's wrath, with the sole purpose of bringing him to Earth and sowing destruction. I am the fucking Antichrist. And at that moment, I was about to meet my father. The old man pushed me into the center of the rocks, which spun around, creating thick black smoke around us. The mark extended down my arm, invading my veins, pumping poison into my heart. I screamed, cried, begged for an end. It couldn't be. I didn't want to go. The terror that filled me was so great that I could hardly realize that, indeed, we were being followed. Jack's plan had suffered a setback, but at no time had I failed to do what he wanted. I escaped limbo. I led him to the sixth circle, and now I would lead him to the only one who could oppose his reign. Before my consciousness shattered into 1,000 pieces and was carried away by the winds towards the deepest points of hell, I could see two silhouettes throwing themselves into the whirlwind of shadows. We had brought company. I want you to try and imagine the deepest darkness. Think of the emptiness of space, the vast expanses of incomprehensible sizes that harbor nothingness for billions of light years. Think of the deepest point of the ocean, where life barely exists, where sunlight is mere folklore and only cold and loneliness accompany you. Pride is lonely. A space, a confinement so small and insignificant compared to the other circles, yet so much crueler. Only cold and nothingness in every direction. You are completely forgotten by creation. Light rejects you. Senses abandon you. Your consciousness is crushed, compressed into an infinitely small space, yet containing a vastness that harbors nothing. All the great beings of hell share the natural terror that haunts life, the entropy that carries everything away. Some, like the succubus, even use it to hunt. But here, in the central point of this cyclone of hopelessness, in the maximum security wing of this prison, nothingness is thick and eternal. Yet, we are talking about God's former favorite angel. There's a card up the sleeve. Even this deepest point of hell is still part of Gehenna, still part of its body, although there is no physical space to contain the soul. Even demons can dream. And when I opened my eyes, I found myself inside Samael's dream, face to face with the embodiment of evil. Beside me, I could see Jack and the strange girl who always seemed fascinated by me, the old man kneeling just ahead, all completely fascinated. The devil, after all, is extremely beautiful. The body of a model with long, golden, silky hair, eyes red as rubies, and beautiful white wings. Even in the face of such beauty, I could sense whom I was about to speak with. Like a gazelle before a lion, I was nothing before him. Just a weak flame of a candle that could be extinguished at any moment. Long minutes passed until Samael smiled and extended his arms.
Nate, my beautiful child, I've longed to meet you. Why don't you sit? We have much to talk about.
As if by magic, a table and 2 chairs appeared in front of me out of nowhere. Samael sat down. But what about them? I said, pointing at the other 3, who strangely hadn't moved a muscle since I woke up.
Oh, they won't bother us. Our conversation is just father to son.
Carefully, I sat down, and in a moment, 2 glasses appeared. Samael lightly touched the mouths of both, and wine slowly filled them.
Incredible, isn't it? If you want, I'll teach you how.
I know what you want with me. Samael brought the glass to his lips, slowly sipping the wine without taking his eyes off me, and spoke again with a fond smile.
Nate, don't take the daydreams of a stuttering old man so seriously. All I want is for you to have a better life.
What do you mean?
You see, your grandfather was very cruel to me, and this fate, as you can see over the last few decades, also affects my entire lineage. But, unlike him, I love you, Nate. I truly love you, and I only wish that you could return to the earthly world to enjoy a sincere life.
I could feel the sincerity in his words, an intense love that only a father could have. But, in the depths of my mind, a small part of my self was screaming, completely terrified. If you only want my good, why am I still here? Do you know how much I've suffered since I died? If what you say is true, I shouldn't even have fallen into this damn place in the first place.
Nathaniel, use your head. I do have some control over my body, but I'm in prison. And what power does a convict have over the cell that holds him?
Unable to answer, I brought the cup to my mouth and slowly drank. It was sweet and warm, and as it went down my throat, the taste changed to intangible things. A summer sun, a mother's embrace. Let's face it, if you don't have control of Gehenna, how do you plan to get me out of here? For a few moments, I swore his perfect teeth were twisted and sharp, but they returned to normal as quickly as the sight.
To get out of hell, one must rewrite one's name in the Book of Life. Beyond this circle, there is purgatory, where the book rests. But only with a tangible body can you manipulate it. The way it is now, even if I sent you there, it would be useless.
A plate of grapes materialized in front of us, and Samael invited me to try them. While I satiated my hunger with the taste of the stars, he continued to speak.
But, if you allow me, I can give you a part of my consciousness. And with that, you should be able to manage a new body.
My heart was racing. Perhaps because of the food, perhaps because of the presence in front of me, but I felt strangely lethargic, compelled to accept. But something in that friendly smile gave me a terrible feeling. I needed to be smart. Looking around once more, I laid eyes on the strange woman, and in that tense moment, the pieces came together in my mind. Wait, she can't be Holly? How could I not recognize her? Her plump lips, her eyes once so full of hope and dreams. Even now, after decades of torment, her curves still drove me crazy. There was no doubt. It was the same Holly I fell in love with. The same Holly I killed. Looking at Holly's body and the ring still glowing on Jack's hand, I had an idea. Cruel and insane, but at this point, after going through so much, it was worth a try. Like many of you, I also know the tales and stories, the deals with demons and otherworldly entities. If I really was my father's only hope of getting out of hell, perhaps he was desperate enough not to notice a few details. Dad, I wish to make a deal.
What do you think this is? A business meeting? What more could you possibly want?
I pointed towards Holly. still standing perfectly still in the middle of the void.
The love of my life. If I'm going to come back, I want a chance, a new life, and she has to be a part of it.
The morning star laughed.
Nate, you amuse me. If my son wants to fuck, I have a lot of followers upstairs who would be delighted to...
I cut him off by getting up from the table.
I don't just want any whore. I want my Holly. I don't care about anything else.
For a second, I could feel his anger on my body. I thought I was going to be dismantled, but after a few seconds, he just smiled.
But of course, a girl and a new body. Does that suit you?
Slowly, I walked towards the three still paralyzed men. Samael's gaze on my back, and I put my hands on her cold face and kissed her. It's all I want in the world. Samael smiled, stood, and walked towards me. Without realizing that, with my free hand, I had discreetly taken Jack's ring off. What followed was pure chaos. The Archduke of Hell is ancient and powerful. Astaroth follows no one, guided only by hate and his will, a will that was trapped inside the ring. As soon as it was removed, Astaroth saw an opportunity to get rid of it and take revenge for centuries of servitude. He forcefully invaded Lucifer's dream. The angel's presence destabilized Samael. A breach was formed, an intense and pure light. But I couldn't escape like that, not without a body. When Astaroth manifested, piercing Jack's chest with his hand and consuming him entirely, I put the ring on without a second thought. A scream of hatred invaded that oneric realm. Samael grew in size. His beautiful torso twisted into 1,000 facets. The devil, Satan, the seraphim, Beelzebul, Baal, fury, hate, malice. I could feel my mind burning, the mark of the beast growing again on my arm. I was about to be reformed. Myself would be stolen and made a husk for primordial evil. Focusing my attention on the ring, in a cry of fury I commanded,
Astaroth, surrender and become mine. May your life become my flesh, your blood my support, and your will my vision.
The Archduke tried to fight, but against the will of the ring, nothing could be done. Samael could only curse me as I merged with the fallen Celestial and headed for purgatory. My late vision was the face of Jack, Holly and the old man, fated to be trapped forever in Samael's nightmare. The next thing I knew, I was naked, digging my way out of the earth in the middle of a storm. I think you know the rest. I've done everything I can to escape my father's clutches ever since, to get into my grandfather's good graces and escape Gehenna, but no matter what I do, no matter how hard I fight, my fate seems to be sealed. On this terrible night, I feel that something has changed. Somehow he is getting closer. The shadows of the chapel are chanting his name. The candles are going out, the cross is beginning to rust. My hope is that Astaroth's invasion has weakened my father's control. Perhaps now the way to purgatory is clear. For the first time in millennia, the prison is unguarded. Nicholas doesn't answer my messages. He said he could baptize me, you know. Today I would be reborn as a true child of God, but something tells me he won't return. Hell is an eternal prison that holds creepy beings and the worst of humanity, but now it's imperfect. There is a way out, if you're strong enough to find it. I promise that my father won't have my body. No matter what, I'll do everything I can to make sure that doesn't happen. The water is already prepared. I'll try to baptize myself, but if that doesn't happen, it was good to share my memories with you all. May hell never take hold of your souls.